If I knew 3 moves, I did those 3 moves all night. And then if I learned another move, I added one. And I just felt what the connection would be. And this is just tried and true. So if I did the same move with 10 people or 20 people and everybody got it, then I'm like, okay, that's what I need to do. That's the connection to pull
Right.
that move off.
Yes, Mike Bello here at the M123 studio with the podcast Let's Talk Hustle. And with me right now is Jamar Rigault, aka DJ R Class. Sup?
Going on, Mike.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me on the podcast. I
Oh,
appreciate that.
absolutely. Long time no see. It's only been like what, about I don't know, 12 hours? No, like 16 hours.
Like 16 hours, yeah, correct.
Yeah. Yeah, I think what we're gonna do in this case right now, we're just gonna jump right in,
Okay.
and if you have any questions as you go along, or if you have any thoughts as we're going along, feel free to share that.
No
I just
problem.
want to say that Jamal, I met you a couple years ago in the hustle scene, primarily as a DJ, but you're also a dancer, and you've been dancing hustle for a while. So we'll cover both your hustle journey as well as your DJ journey,
Okay.
primarily for hustle.
Yeah.
Not because I know that you also DJ other genres of music, and you do parties and events and things like that. But we're gonna start off with something that's a little straight out the box. So, as a DJ in the hustle community, what is it you feel is your mission?
Well, my mission, right, you right to it, huh?
Right to it. Amen.
My mission is to kind of bring in music that emphasizes the classics in a sense. Obviously I wasn't born during those times, but
Right.
my mission more so is, I'm a fan of the music from growing up, my mother and other elder influences. So it's to kind of like keep that core energy with the music, but at the same time building on it with modern sound. So that would be my mission, to invoke new music, new sound, but still paying homage to what the dance was built on.
Okay. And so how does that relate specifically to the hustle dancers? Like when you're DJing and keeping your mission in mind, how does that relate, directly to, the hustle dancers?
So the way I look at it, I try to cater to the different I guess age groups, right? That we have. So I try to mimic what I feel like, those who danced in that time would appreciate that sound, the music. And at the same time, the modern dancers, I'm gonna say the modern, but the people the younger dancers, the new gen, or I can't even say new gen, because just because you're younger doesn't necessarily mean you are new gen, but that's another topic. But I try to make sure.
I see what you mean. Like you're saying those who are new to the dance, but they're not younger people. And you're correct in that regard. Yeah.
Right. So I try to give them a taste of what the elders, I would say, were listening to at the time.
Right.
But keep them interested with modern, the music of the modern times as of now, so that they keep the interest up. and keep them coming back on the dance floor.
Right. Okay. I noticed too that every DJ has their own kind of flavor, and every DJ kind of specializes in one thing or another, and primarily staying true to the genre. But I noticed that with you have more of a urban slant, right?
Okay.
Like soul based, grooves that are still has that steady beat, still has that floor to floor, primarily. But it has that edge. It's a little edgy on the urban side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I try to. I mean, that's the music I grew up to, and I like to play tracks that invoke feeling and have melodies and give a sense of sexiness on the floor. After all, it is a partner dance, and I want the leader to, in a sense, kind of serenade the follower while they're dancing.
Yeah.
So I look at it as kind of like a courtship with the tracks that I play, so that it's kind of like a love story on the dance floor. So to give a little sexiness, to give a little what's the word I want to say? I want the leader to feel empowered in a sense when they're dancing with the follower, whether it be male or female.
Right.
But for them to feel confident that they know the song and that the song gives a melodic tune so that they can kind of like, kind of get in the groove with it, with the follower. Right. And then I want the follower to also feel sexy and appreciated.
Right.
While being led at the same time. So I feel like that choices in music invokes that feeling.
In that same vein, like, what is your approach, regarding music to maintaining, and keeping people excited on the dance floor, other than the things that you mentioned? Because we've covered kind of like a micro genre stuff, like like the urban soul aspect of it. But like, what else do you do? That helps to keep the dancers excited on the dance floor.
Well, I feel like you have to have highs and lows when I'm playing. So in the intro, like I said, like a love story, you start off slow, like a date. You start off slow, you get to know the person, and then as time goes on, we're just talking about relationships.
Right.
You hit the apex, and I think that's the high energy songs and music and the things that make you feel lively. And then after the apex or the climax, in a sense, then you taper off and you kind of think about the experience that you had. So for me, that would now equate to more the end of the night, more of a deep tone, more deep house type of vibe, and more melodies, instrumentals, because we got through the greeting part. We hit the apex with a high energy, and now I'm tapering off to kind of the end of the night where I'm kind of dropping you off home after a date or whatnot. Right. So that's my analogy with that.
Yeah. And it's interesting too, when you have that kind of a format, and I know that this is it's a loose kind of thing. I know that you're not rigid in that, I mean, yes, a lot of times most DJs will start off at, down tempo, 100 beats per minute, 112 beats, somewhere in between there, just to get people warmed up. Sometimes it could be, in general, not you specifically, but in general, it could be too long or too short. It depends on, I guess it really depends on the attendant. But, give us examples of what types of music you feel truly belong on the hustle dance floor. Because, like, there's so much kinds of music, and when we talk about hustle, I have my own opinion, which I might share a little bit later. But what do you feel belongs on the hustle dance floor musically?
Musically, I feel you have to pay attention to the crowd that's in attendance. Number one, and that kind of evokes on how you feel the music that should be played to start off. I think you can play R&B. You can start with anything, as long as it works with getting people loosened up and getting people comfortable to get on the dance floor. I'm not really rigid with what needs to be played, as this more so on how it's played. I think you can't come out the gate fast. You kind of got to like ease it up, let people kind of feel what type of vibe it is. And I think also a lot of for me a lot of factors play into it: the venue, the lighting, the sound system, the people in attendance. I think a mixture of all of those things, in a sense, gives me the view on how I want to start the party.
Right.
So, what's the energy? Who's in attendance? How people are dressed. So,
Really, do you feel that? You feel like how people are dressed really keys you into how you're going to,
well,
perform?
well, I mean, as a dancer too, I kind of have an advantage with that. So I kind of put myself, well, I'm a dancer, and if I'm attending an event and I'm wearing a suit, I kind of want to be a little sexy and not work up a sweat to to sweat out my outfit. And I think the same as females as well. So I wouldn't play too fast, but I'll play enough where they're having a good time. So I think a lot of those little different factors I pay attention to. I think ultimately, if I see people coming with jeans, t-shirts, and they're more comfortable, more laid back, I can push the envelope in how I want to start and the music that I want to play.
Right, you can knock their socks off.
Pretty much.
But also, it also depends too on like, whether or not, it's cool enough in the venue, even in wintertime, it can get kind of hot in there.
Yes.
And they don't have AC or they don't have fans. Like last night we were at 12 and in the beginning, the fans weren't on. So it got hot pretty fast,
Right.
And later on, the fans came on and then, it felt better.
Yeah,
So did that play into your thing too, or?
definitely that played a part. Sometimes at certain venues when it's and especially in the summer, I'm not gonna push the BPM too high. I'll keep it moderate because again it's hot. I might not have AC or it's people in attendance is too much for the system. So you're not gonna push it too much. Push it enough so people get their burn. Keep the tempo and on the more on the down end because it's hot and you want people to always be on the floor in a sense. And sometimes it's not. I think what happens sometimes as a DJ, you think, oh man, I'm not playing well because the floor is not packed. And it's really more so that people just tired. It's not really the sound selection.
And those other things that we mentioned too, like sometimes if it's too hot, and you go through two dances and you're like, okay, I had enough. I need a
Right.
5 minute break, So yeah, I get you. And it's interesting too, because I have a history as a DJ. I did many years ago. I DJ'd for 20 some odd years, and I understand the value of the DJ's place in a venue, in an event, whatever type of event that it is. And yeah, you have to weigh all those factors. All those things have to come to mind if you want to have a successful night of dancing and people leave going, damn, Jamal was like kicking it, man. It was awesome. As opposed to, it was whack, man, because he didn't do this. I mean, because like, one of the things I really like, because we were talking about down-tempo music, but there's down-tempo music that feels fast because of all the syncopations and rhythms and things like that. So you can make them think that it's fast, make them feel like it's fast. And really, it isn't.
Right.
You can have a tune that's, let's say, 115 beats per minute and it feels like 123. Because there's so much activity going on.
Activity, correct.
Yeah. Which came first, DJing or dancing?
Dancing came first.
But your dancing is not just hustle. I mean, actually, in dancing, hustle was not your first dance, right?
No, it wasn't. Hustle was actually one of the last dances that I that I did. Originated with ballroom dancing back when I was 14. My sister was my dance partner.
Nice.
And my mother got me into ballroom. My mother was a dancer first. And I used to, kick and scream, I don't want to go to dance.
He was like,
You
I
know,
ain't doing that.
yeah, I was 14, 15. Then, we started high school and then, your friends is asking you, what are you doing on the weekends? And like, we're going to dance. And they're like, what? So
They were like, did they give
yeah,
you shit for it?
yeah. So the peer pressure aspect, yeah, came into play. And then I was like, I'm not doing dancing no more.
Right,
I
right.
did football. And then, you know, funny thing is, I had high school, I had a kind of career and an injury. So I couldn't participate in football anymore. And the doctor I had surgery, and the doctor told me you should probably do swimming and dancing. I'm like, I did all of this stuff to get away from dancing now, and I'm back,
You know,
and
the
I'm back
universe
at it.
speaks loudly sometimes, you know. You can't escape the universe, but it tells you, you know, no, we're doing this instead of that, you know.
Yeah. And then I started coming out. My bowling teacher, she used to teach me in Brooklyn,
Okay.
and also Miss Celia, and Rudy Gill as well. I was part of their dance school. My mother was part of their dance school first, and then I went back to them probably in my late high school, college. She said, "Hey, on Mondays I go to this place to hustle." And I'm like, "What's that?" And she was like, "Oh, you know, just come out. It's you know, I do my hustle and my salsa." And I didn't even know about the dance because
Wow.
at that time I was doing like waltz, foxtrot, salsa, quick step.
So
You
you do
know,
smooth and rhythm.
more than rhythm, yeah. And then I came, and then I was just like, I gotta get this dance because I got the other ones. So it was
Right.
more. It started as more of a challenge to learn the hustle, and then watching people dance to the music that you know I listen in the car, watching my mother listen to. I was like, oh, they dance to this. You know, it's my first time actually seeing it
Probably the dance.
live.
Yeah.
That style of dance.
Right.
I've seen it before, but it wasn't well represented until I came to a dance sport. This
Okay.
was back in like 2002, 2003.
Okay.
That's when I first started coming out.
You were still going to college at the time.
I was still going to college at the time.
So who was like your first main, you know, instructor for hustle?
You know, wow. I mean, my influences is vast. Mr. Antonio Easterling, Boots, Louis Orlando, Bev Darchie. I used to just come out on Mondays and just coming out every day, every Monday, and just people just seeing me and just gravitating like, hey, let me show you this, let me show you that, and I just kept on coming, and I think they just took to me, you know,
Right.
as a community, you know, that's been it. I just kept coming out and started doing some competitions,
How
having
far
drills.
how far after you started getting the sense of hustle did you, you know, get into competition?
I'll say maybe 2009.
Oh, so then you had been dancing for a while before you
Yeah, I've been
started.
dancing for a while. But I never like attended any like comps and things like that. I'm just out socially for the most part.
Right.
Into Jack and Jill's,
Primarily?
primarily Jack and Jill's first,
Yeah.
just to kind of get my feet wet. Didn't really have a fun at the time,
Listen.
and I just always enjoyed the social aspect of the dance. And I felt like the Jack and Jill's balanced with how my style of dancing, just dancing socially. So it's like I'm competing, but like kind of with you never know who you're gonna dance with. And I
Right.
felt like that kept my skills sharp.
You know, going back a little bit to what you mentioned earlier, and that's something that I have to say that I love about the community is that they're very giving,
Right.
social. You know, like compared to other genres, because I know, you know, I have a long and deep history with salsa, and you know, salsa events they're more into themselves. You know, I mean, it's a great environment, but unlike unlike salsa hustle, people share. If you do something that they think that you could benefit from, they immediately will share with you. It's very
Right.
familial, very loving in that regard, you know. And I like that about that because you know you can take classes, whatever, and there are people that's all they do is take classes and then they go out socially and they're not useless, but they have a tough time because they're not allowing themselves to make mistakes, to evolve through those mistakes and dance with other dancers because not everyone dances the same. And when you're out there and these people are going, oh, you could do it like this, or this is how we normally do this kind of thing. I think it helps the community grow. I know it happened a lot. Getting back to DJing, like when did you start doing weekender hustle events?
I started DJing maybe 2011. More so, I DJ for like the reggae, soca, hip hop crowd, and at that time I was still dancing hustle, and it was kind of like a light bulb went off for me, and I was, the DJs at the time, great, no complaints. Donnie Shields, Nelson Paradise Showman, those are the primary two DJs that when I used to come out were playing, and for me it was more so just I like music, and there's other music that I would like to hear, or I think people may like to hear as well. And I just more like a challenge first,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like
on the DJing part, or on like acquiring music and
acquiring music.
There's a learning curve, right?
There's a learning curve.
Yeah.
At first, for me, it was just acquiring the music, acquiring the music, understanding the music, understanding the breaks, understanding the sequencing of the music, the phrasing of tracks, and understanding where to blend, where to mix in, like what worked, what doesn't work. So it became more of a challenge. The whole mixology of it.
Nice.
And the weekenders, kind of happened by accident. I was a fill-in for a weekender, which is kind of how I started with the congresses.
Which event was that?
Well, at first, I started playing for Lori Breezy first. Lori Breezy is the first promoter that actually booked me.
That was locally, right?
That was locally. Yeah, right. Lori Breezy was the first promoter that booked me locally. Other promoters hired me locally as well.
That was around 2009-ish or later?
Yeah, that was later. That was later. Can't remember the actual year, but early 2012, 13, around that time.
Okay. So you were developing your DJ chops during this period.
And still playing for the reggae, soca,
right,
hip hop crowd as well.
Yeah, because you gotta mix it up too. I mean,
I gotta mix it up too.
Yeah.
We gotta mix it up too.
And cutting.
And then I can't remember what year it was, but IHSC had me. I think maybe 2015, 2016, around that time.
Yeah, Billy Fajardo.
Billy Fajardo. Yep, Billy Fajardo and Katie Marlowe at the time. Hired me for the event. That kind of got the ball rolling with the weekenders, and then it escalated into do the New York Hustle Congress, then the LA Hustle Congress, to now Tri-State. I did Hawaii.
Oh yeah, I forgot about
George Garcia through that event.
Right.
Shay Dixon's event, LA Hustle. Lori Breezy, New York Hustle Congress.
And the New Jersey Congress as well, right?
And the New Jersey Congress as well.
Yeah.
What else? Yvonne Soglu, Canada. He threw an event in Montreal.
Part of Canada now?
I was in Montreal. I was back in 2018, 2019 as well.
Any other cities in Canada?
I did Vancouver. Vancouver had an event, and I just been traveling local. I've been traveling more so as a dancer first,
right,
to these events, and then I'll get the opportunity to play, and
nice.
It snowball into other things as well, which I'm grateful for.
Yeah, last night we were at 412, and it was a really great and successful event. And then Cozy, stopped by, and I saw you like, hey, Taiwan,
Right. Right.
Yeah, because you got to try and make it to the international ones too. I mean, Canada's international, and then you also got coming up Montreal, the Salsa Congress, actually, right?
Yes. The Salsa Congress.
You're going to be the DJ for that on the hustle side.
On the hustle side, correct.
Yeah, so that's exciting.
Absolutely. That's not fully announced yet, but yes, that's.
Yeah, well, we could do that here because and I got it like that, you know. But listen, you know, through your dance journey with Hustle, because in my opinion, you're one of the premier dancers here in New York, and
Thank you. I
I
appreciate
would
that.
venture to say in the world.
Wow.
And
Thank
you've
you.
got, because you got, you know, you got about what, you got about 20 years under your belt, you know, and you have your own distinct style, and you can dance with anyone and everyone. And I've seen you dance with some of the best followers, and it's always beautiful, you know.
Thank you.
But if there was like one takeaway from the way that you dance, what actually makes your connection with dancers the primary value of dancing with these followers?
So when I start, very complex question. I mean, it's a simple
Sorry.
question, but a complex answer. I'm just saying.
Right.
You know, it's so weird if I have to really break it down, and it's gonna sound kind of. I literally have like a folder in my head
Okay.
through the years
Right.
of every follower. It's, I don't know how. I kind of know what their connection, their feel,
Right.
and I don't know. I don't know if it's indexed in my mind,
Okay.
and I think that's just from years and years of just social dancing, just dancing socially, not and dancing with everyone socially, and like from the window to the wall. When I
Right.
first started dancing, I would ask everybody to dance, and you know, and I think just me building like if I knew three moves, I did those three moves all night, and then if I learned another move, I added one, and I just felt what the connection would be. And this is just tried and true. So if I did the same move with 10 people or 20 people and everybody got it, then I'm like, okay, that's what I need to do. That's the connection to pull
Right.
that move off. And if one person out of the 20 doesn't get it, then I'm like, okay, I can utilize this opportunity to kind of lead them into it, not ostracize them because they're not getting it, but more
Right.
so to lead them into it so that it's indexed in my mind that we can do this dance together and have a great connection.
Yeah, that's a tricky thing too, right? Because I know for me, because I'm still growing as a hustler. I came back, as you know, a few years ago. And so there sometimes my biggest fault is I treat every follow almost the same way, and that's not the right approach,
Yeah,
right?
it's
Is to approach each dancer the way they dance. It's just like, I used to teach mambo and all that, and if I had a group of people, I would teach to the middle, but then you had these advanced dancers, and then you had these people that just couldn't get it right away. So then you have to, articulate in different ways so that everybody walks out the door with the same information. And I haven't myself translated that wholeheartedly. I am transitioning to that, but because I'm like older kid, and sometimes I'm like, Nelson Flores says, "Don't like sometimes you're dancing crazy or whatever," and I don't 100% agree with him, but at the same time, I do kind of agree with him. But sometimes when I'm not really careful with my follow, I may do things that either they're not prepared for or I'm not leading correctly, and so that's good that that's your approach. That you're putting them in that thing with your mental Rolodex.
it's funny. Last night she might be watching. She may watch this. Rose. I saw a dance with Rose at Winter Circle on
Well,
Friday,
that's right. She was at both, right?
and then I saw her on yesterday on Saturday. You know, we danced. We had a great dance, and I thanked her. I said, hey, thank you for seeing you tonight again. And I said, thanks for the dance yesterday. And she said, I bet you didn't think you would have had a good dance. So then, so then I said, I hope she doesn't kill me for saying this. I said, why would you think we're gonna have a good dance? And I think that part about it is every dance that I'm going to have with a follower is going to be a good dance for
Yeah,
them. It
that's a
doesn't
great
necessarily have to be a
approach.
good dance for me. It has to be a good dance for them
Right.
by me paying attention to what they can and what they can't do. And I think that's the part that makes the dance enjoyable for the follower. I think the focus for leaders should be to make the dance enjoyable for the followers. I think the emphasis.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think the emphasis for the leaders should always be that make sure the follower has the best dance.
That's a really good approach, because then it makes everyone get a chance to really dance with everyone. I know myself, because for me to improve, I feel I need to dance with good dancers. But there are times when I do dance with other dancers that both are not leveled up. A lot of times they're fun. Sometimes they're not so fun, and I carry them. But then it also teaches me patience and a little bit of grace, because they're trying to get it too.
Of course.
There's a lot of times that with whatever information I have that I could assist, I ask them to, like, is it okay if I give you a tip or two? Because I'm not just gonna try and teach them on the floor or whatever, without their permission. But sometimes getting that across, we wind up with having better future dancers.
Yes.
And like Winnie, like I love that. When she first started coming out, she was having a really tough time. She didn't have any background, no music background, no dance background,
Nice.
and she's coming along, and she has a way to go. She knows it, but she's a lot better for hanging in there and doing, whatever it takes to make it work. So, I like that. Kind of veering off just a little bit. I understand that you recently entered professional bodybuilding competitions, right? When did you start, and how does that affect your dancing?
So just to backtrack with something you were saying with the when dancing with somebody, my phrase that I always say is, "Well, let's try that again." If we miss the connection, or I might miss the move, or they didn't catch it, I always say, "Let's try that again."
Yes.
Or I'll ask, "You want to try that again?" And most of the time they say, "Yeah, let's run it back. Let's run it again." And that gives like a playful, that I'm not harping on you for missing the connection, and I'm willing to like do it again if I miss something from you or you miss something from me.
Yeah, that's
Right.
a approach. Yeah, it puts them at ease too, right?
It puts them, of course, definitely puts them at ease, and it makes them feel, that you're kind of catering to their level if they didn't miss it. Even with people who are advanced dancers, sometimes yes. I mean, it's so quick. Sometimes you might see somebody going in the line that they're about to go to, so you try to change your pattern or change the move, and they might catch it what you're trying to do late, and then train wreck. But it's not a bad train wreck. It's just you're trying to protect them, or you may catch I call it like, the brain freeze as leaders, sometimes.
Yeah, right. I hear you.
As far as bodybuilding, I've been bodybuilding for about I'm gonna say about 2024, about 6 years.
Okay.
About 6 years. I just kind of took it to a different level these last couple of years.
Right.
I was always a fan of the sport. It was something that I wanted to do many, many years ago. I was able to kind of like take that time, especially with COVID, when COVID had happened. So I had more time on my plate. There was no dancing. So I took up a different hobby.
Trying to get involved with that.
Yeah. I think for me, it affected my dancing just with the new mass that I've attained.
Right.
So sometimes when I'm spinning or turning, like my shoulders would like hit the followers. So I'm a little more cognizant of that, and I'm more cognizant of the space that I take up.
I see.
So certain moves I'm a little more particular with. I think when I was a little smaller, I would do it. Now I'm a little hesitant because I don't want to hit nobody, my shoulders, and I take up more of the space. So I'm more cognizant of that going forward.
I see that, in my opinion, probably, I don't know if that was difficult for you or not, but I feel like that might have been a little easier for you, especially because there are many times I've seen you dance with a hat, and you have a really wide brim hat, and you have to keep that in mind. I've never seen you knock your own hat off, So when you're doing trim and stuff, you got to keep that space too, right? So, I mean, let's be real. That's true. So, like, do you feel that they kind of work in concert? The fact that your shoulders and your hat, and
Yeah, I mean, it had just became like a thing, recently. Yeah, nobody really knocks off the hat for the most part. But yeah,
right,
for the spatial area, it kind of gives like a small cushion in a
right,
sense.
right. Yeah, because that spatial awareness, that's gotta. I mean, you have to be keyed for that. I
Hmm.
imagine because I mean, you do well. I mean, I've seen you dance with a hat. It's freaking awesome. Of course, I see you dance without a hat, and with your hair long too. It doesn't go around whipping people and stuff. It kind of.
Yeah,
Well, your hair is pretty heavy, I can imagine. So
yeah.
it's not whipping around. That's kind of a unique way of traversing the dance floor, and connect it without disrupting the flow. And I marvel at that at times. This guy's really getting around. He's got this really big, wide. It's a wide. You have few, right? You have a few hats.
I have a few, yeah.
I've seen more than one, and it looks good. I mean, I'm like, this dude is getting down. you know, I love it. Listen, tell me your thoughts on social DJing versus DJing at events and competitions.
Social DJing
Yeah, so like
versus events, like you talking
you
about
know what
like
I'm saying, like
weekends.
weekenders and local, or just like one nighters and things like that. Because there's got to be a different mindset and approach in
You,
that regard.
you
Yes.
know, what's so funny? I had to learn through trial how to do the events, how to DJ for events versus the socials. So with the socials, with the example I was giving earlier, with start off down tempo and work your way up.
Listen.
I was doing like that same type of concept with the events,
Right.
and sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. And it took a patron who attended to like kind of tell me like, yo, you gotta bring it, man. This a weekend. I
We
paid
here to
my
party.
money.
Come on.
Yeah, I came to party. I paid my money. And then I was just like, oh, then the light bulb went off. And I was just like, okay, these people, they came to attend, they came with high end, so their energy is already high to
Right.
attend. So there's really no need to start off on a down tempo. Like let's get it rocking.
Let's get going.
Let's get going.
Right.
So with the socials, it's more of a people come in and say hi. It's more of a greeting. The socials with the events, the big events, is like I came to party and I came to go home bruised. And
Right.
uh, Chris Bates is actually
Yeah.
he's like, you better hurt him.
Yeah,
That's
he's a
Chris.
monster.
So
Yeah.
Chris Bates
Was
and
he the one that
actually
told you that?
yeah, Chris Bates is actually the
I
one.
saying that.
Chris has this thing. Is if I come to the DJ booth,
You better come correct.
it's a problem.
Right.
And when he attends the events, comes in, I'm like, oh, okay, he's here. Time to kind of pick it up.
You look at like, oh yeah, I hope this is good for him. Right?
Yeah, but I'll see Chris, dance floor, and he'll look, and he's like, oh, I'm not coming up here. You're good.
Right.
So I like
But
that. I
yeah,
like that challenge, and
yeah,
him as
that's
well
good.
as Roberto Valentine. Definitely the ones to tell me like, not that they told me, but I listen and I take the feedback and I digest it.
Yeah.
And with that, Chris will kind of tell me, oh, you leave him hurting, so that when they come back the next day, they're like, oh, when they go home or they get on the plane, like, man, my feet hurting. And Roberto was like, would give me he wants to like serenade and you know aspect with the music. Like he says, like he like that. And so I was like, okay, so leave him hurting and make him feel loved.
Right.
So I try to teeter on those variables when I'm DJing.
Right.
And the competitions
Uh-huh.
aspect, play music that people know. for the most, have good melody. I think the worst thing for someone who's competing and the music comes on is like what is this? When they question the track that's playing.
I see.
Like within the first 5 seconds, they're doubting if they can dance to this track. And
Right.
I think the music that you select definitely has a effect on the placements of people who dance, because you can play something that they're not feeling, and that doesn't mean that they can't dance. It just
Right.
it didn't work for them.
It didn't work.
And sometimes that actually, to me, like, you hold a lot of weight. I think you have to really be selective, especially with the I'm not trying to make the pro competitions more than the amateurs. I think everybody should be treated the same, but I think you have a direct effect on the placements of those in those events, depending on the music you play.
I think so too. Like in my opinion, personally speaking, I mean, I'm not a competitor or anything like that, but if I'm watching a competition and I'm watching two dancers who are basically performing, right? You want to see the best that they could give us, right?
Yes.
And sometimes if the right music isn't being played, they don't have that feeling to connect with it, to really, like, I have very specific ideas in my mind what dancers should dance to in general, but specifically in competitions, they need to like get down, because they want to be impressing those judges. And if the music doesn't do it for them, then they have to generate that from within.
From within. Yes.
Yes.
Right. I mean, most the great ones can. Don't get me wrong.
Yes.
The great ones can, but I think you want the crowd participation as well. You want the crowd to feel the energy from the music and hear it to the dancers. So now when they're performing or competing, they get that back.
That's a good point, because it raises expectations too from the right.
Because if you're playing a great song and the crowd is jamming and you're performing, you're competing, you see the crowd jamming too, that
Right.
does something to you, ignites you even more.
Right.
And you're able to actually perform at a higher level, because now it's more of it's an admiration effect from the people that's watching you.
Has that happened to you where you're competing and you got like shit music?
I mean, it's happened, and then I think that's when I rely now on the connection of the person I'm competing with,
Right,
to get over that hurdle, to move on well.
Yeah. Hey, this is something that's going to come from your own personal bank or whatever, but name 3 follows that you love to dance with, and then one that you would most love to dance with but haven't danced with yet.
I'm going to follow that I haven't danced with that I would love to dance.
No, let's do the 3 first, and then you could go with the. I'm sure you have more than 3.
Yeah, I have more than 3.
Top of your head.
So would be Diane Ardone.
Nice.
Louis Orlando.
Nice.
I'm not gonna put Louis and Beth on the same.
Yeah, these are just 3. There's no like.
No,
yeah.
I'm putting them on the same, like, their package deal.
Okay.
And I would say, and Lauren Fortino. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, 3 great dancers. Yes, that's. But when you haven't danced with, but you want like, oh my God, I got to dance with her, but I haven't danced with her yet. Or the follow. It doesn't have to be her. A follow.
I'd probably dance with person maybe once, but another legend, probably Lisa Nunziella.
Lisa Nunziella. Okay.
Yeah.
It's so funny that you mentioned that, because in my head I'm going, I wonder if he's gonna say Lisa. I'm serious. In my brain, I was like, I wonder if he's gonna say Lisa, and that's a good choice, because she's like the epitome of Latin hustle.
Okay.
Right. When you watch her dance, and you see her energy, her fire. I mean, she's still got fire. She's up there. She's throwing it all out there, and it looks great. I want to be there when you do dance with her, so I can record that and let people see how you guys,
Man, I missed the opportunity in LA. I was DJing, and she actually asked me to dance, and I was like, I was DJing during the set, and it was I couldn't really step away.
Right,
And,
right.
and when I tell you that it broke me, I was like, oh.
Damn.
I mean,
Right.
I got asked. I didn't even, and for me, that was when a female asks is you the dance, I think that's even like much more in high regard,
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
Um,
That's a great
and,
feeling too.
yeah, and she like, hey, you want to dance? And I was just like, I really like. It was like 2 minutes left in the track, and I was working on the mix, and I couldn't.
Yeah. Couldn't
I
jump
was in
away.
the zone. It was LA. Again, it was event. It was the event itself, and I couldn't really step away like if I do socially. I did step away a couple of times during the events I do when I can. It depends on what the time of night, but the party was rocking that during that time, and
I was there. It's a fact.
and I didn't want to kind of lose that capsule of energy that I was in while I was in the booth.
I see. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that
So
makes sense.
I have to put the people first
Yes,
rather
yes.
than my own.
Other
Sorry
than your
about that. Other than my own personal accolades in a sense.
right, right. But getting back to those three, like because they're all different dancers. So briefly, what do you think is there? Are there similarities, or they're totally, in my opinion, they're totally
It's
unique in different dancers? But
I'll pull Marilyn up there too. The compression, that force,
right, that
um,
together force,
that
not the
together
away force,
force.
separate.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I like that because it allows me to set up, and I know I feel more in sync with whoever I'm dancing with once I get that compression. So my list is based on the compression that I get from those people, those dancers when I dance with them.
that makes sense. It sounds like you could maintain your dance throughout when you have that compression, and during the point of the compression, because it's not all.
Right. I think sometimes people confuse great dances with how many patterns you can do. And just because you can do a lot of patterns and different turns and things doesn't necessarily mean the dance is great. Just means if you can do the whole track, basic step and a couple of, shadow turns and inside, the connection is great. Like, I can go home after that.
It's a cigarette smoking moment, Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, as long as you have the compression, I feel like that's the driving force with great dancers. Doesn't matter if you can't do that many steps or they can't do that many steps. If you have that great connection, I think that's how I rate it.
That distinction is, carries a lot of weight, because I see people that all they want to do is style and not really connect. They just want to do moves, and they're not really in sync with their partner. The leader is not really giving any justice to the follow. And so what winds up happening is that, especially, like, one of the things that I see is, like, there are some leaders that are still, learning, and they're taking classes, so they're paying attention, right? When they go out and dance socially, they're still not stepping primarily. It's when there are experienced dancers who are not stepping the step that and 1, 2, 3 throughout the whole song. They don't do that because they can't, right? Like, because the timing is so ingrained that they could stay in one spot, do a couple turns or whatever, but then they're back in and they're hit the M1 and they're doing their steps and all that stuff. But there are some leaders who, oh, I just want to look good, and they're posing and they're leading, but they're leading off time. And if they're leading off time, then the follower's off time, right?
Yeah.
And so they're not understanding the importance of some people inherently, have timing in their head, right? But there are other times where they don't have that connection to music, and if they're not counting, then they're losing it. And so it's really important to make that distinction of connection is not just that force together, it's also being in sync with the music.
Yeah, I mean, to me, through the years of dancing, in terms of footwork, there were certain leaders to me that like stood out. with their footwork. 3 was definitely a Derek Allen, Kelvin Roche, and Billy Fardo. Like their footwork.
That's it. Okay, we could go home now. You just named probably the top 3, or these are the top 3 dancers on the planet.
In footwork and just footwork, right? And then I took that and I'm like, okay, let me try and build on that, as when I first started. But their footwork to me is like immaculate.
Yeah. We're getting close. I have like maybe 1 or 2 questions. One of the last ones is, how do younger hustle dancers from other locales compare to New York? Since you've traveled and you've been around and you've seen some of these dancers from different regions, how would you compare them to New York?
The Vancouver community, like the Canadian community, in terms of like very the sponges, like they want to soak it all up, and I like that. I feel like the locale here in New York with the younger scene is like you have to convince them to like kind of like get into the dance. Some of them soak it up, but it's not as they don't have like the consistency that I see from the younger generation in Canada and Montreal. When I say Canada, I'm saying Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver, like all group thing. They to me possess a different type of hunger. I wish that the locals here in the the younger generation in New York City, would have. I don't know, maybe it's the location, access. I haven't put my finger on it. I haven't really thought it out. Just kind of going off the top of my head. And then I see, this building in London and Poland and in Asia, Taiwan, Japan. To me, my first indication of like a younger generation soaking up the hustle was in the Canadians.
They're making strides and they're paying attention, and I think that was the perfect word, hunger.
Yeah.
They're evolving, and from what you're saying, what you infer, I'm thinking what you're saying is that we're not evolving, at the same pace as other regions, other locales. And I think the hunger is different because we have so much here. I think they just take for granted, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
That, oh, yeah, maybe. Hey, I'll do this, whatever. But in other locales, there's only a few people, and they're like, oh, we got it. And then they see the videos and they see other people who may come to that locale, may come to Vancouver or Montreal or London or Poland or, Taiwan. And they're like, oh my God, it's awesome. Like, I want to dance like that.
A lot of them kind of possess the qualities I had when I first started. So I see it. I'm like, oh wow, that's exactly how I was. So I like, and I'm kind of able to steer them in the you gotta do it like this, like do it like this. No, look at this. I didn't really have that because in terms of like we didn't have Instagram back then and Facebook. So everything was through those DVDs.
Okay.
Those DVDs or old clips that you might find on YouTube or something like that. But nothing that with your videos that's currently showing exposure to the dance that you can like, okay, yeah, let me look at that. And back then, but for me it was more so I had to. My only experience was to go out. I had to constantly go out for that.
Right. But you were, I mean, I don't mean to interrupt you, but you were at a perfect time because dance sport was like, I mean, I wasn't around. I was out of town at that time. I was living in, on the West Coast. And so dance sport had like stellar dancers like on a regular. And venue,
And it was crazy is I didn't know I was in the presence of, I guess, greatness when I first started.
Right.
I was just like, Danny, they dance very well. And then like as time went on, and I saw the old pictures, I'm like, oh, they were on set for this. They did this. They did this. This time they did, I didn't know of that that world that they were in. And Ron Best has a group, right? And he posts like the old pictures.
Right. You're like, what?
I'm like, what? I'm like, he had an afro.
Right. Right. Back in the day.
Back in the day, so as I have a more appreciation of the people that I didn't have before. I didn't know.
Well, listen, we're at the end.
Okay.
And there's one question, only one more question. And this question is really important. So don't get too nervous. But
you're always pulling a rabbit out the hat, Mike.
Hey, because let's talk hustle, right?
Okay.
But what is Latin hustle to you? Like in your mind and the way you look at the world in hustle, what does Latin hustle represent to you?
Latin hustle represents to me being able to connect to the music that you're dancing to, as well as your partner, and being on time. And at the same token, paying respects to what the dance originated from. I don't want to go too deep, and I don't want to offend other styles and things like that, but that to me is the representation of it, and having the connection, being on time, and doing your basic steps that is inclusive of the dance. Not kind of going off the tangent, but staying true to the dance with the and 1, 2, 3 count. Because I understand it was a different count before, but what the count is now, the and 1, 2, 3, staying within the scope of that.
So for you, would it be fair for me to paraphrase to say that in your mind, the identifier for Latin hustle is and 1, 2, 3?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Yeah.
I need to see that. I need to feel that. I need that to. I need to see that. I need to feel that. I need to hear that in the tracks.
Right.
If I don't, I throw the tracks to the side. Don't get me wrong. There's some temporary music you can play so people can feel more connected to modern. Like, oh, I didn't know I could dance to this.
Right.
But I think that to me is maybe 20% of your set, 30% of your set. It shouldn't be. I'll get my opinion. Shouldn't be 100% of the DJ set. But it changes the dance.
Yeah,
and the feel of the dance.
Right.
Well, I don't.
They dance more to like a groovy, downbeat kind of thing. I could be wrong.
Well, I'm not a West Coast dancer. I mean, I tried it, but then I need to see the basic in steps, and I think that's just from my ballroom background. Because there's no deviation from a waltz, and like you have to do
right, like
your steps.
You got to do that thing for that dance.
You have to do your steps. So,
right,
coming from that background, and when things are changed, it just doesn't sit right with me. It kind of messes up my outlook on it, because it doesn't feel right. Right. Maybe that's just my personal preference, but I think like just coming from that golden background, it is rigid. Don't get me wrong, but if you dance waltz, foxtrot, tango, you can dance with anybody. Just the training is it's the same for the most part.
So, yeah, like frame and staying true to the rhythm and the connection and the leverage and all that stuff. Yeah, all those things remain, and then you just pay attention to the particular dance you're in.
Right, and the follower. Right. But as far as a basic step in the waltz is a basic step here, is a basic step in London, the basic step in Germany, is a basic step everywhere. A waltz basic, right? Foxtrot is the same. It's the same worldwide. Right. So, why is it? Shouldn't it be? I don't think it should be different with the house slider.
Those are really important and good words regarding that specific aspect of dancing hustle, primarily Latin hustle, since we're talking about that. So listen, this was great, man. I'm really glad you agreed to climb on board and get the heebie-jeebies. I had the heebie-jeebies in the beginning. I was like, with connectivity issues or mic issues or headphone issues or whatever. And then once we get beyond all that, it feels good because we don't talk a lot, but when we do, we talk.
Yes, definitely, yeah.
So, and that's what I wanted to feel like. I want the podcast to feel just like we're having a conversation about just hustle, and the other things that add to hustle, because we all got lives,
Right.
hustle is, a part of it. And so when our lives intersect with hustle, then we understand each other, and I wanted people who watch the podcast to understand a little bit about Jamal, or a little bit about Sarah, or a little bit about my future guests,
Right.
Yolanda as well, and because they see them on the videos, right?
Yeah, you got to give me a top 10 next time.
A top 10
with followers.
Oh, top 10. No, man, no. I had to. Yeah, that's a spot. That's a spot question. That's a question that puts you on the spot.
Yeah.
Because then that way you have to. Oh shit! I think you were gonna say 10. 3. That's not enough.
Yeah.
But so listen. So we're here at the N123 studio, and with our Let's Talk Hustle, our baby podcast, with Jamar Rigault, aka DJ R Class, and watch what's coming up in the future, because I got some really cool guests coming up. Again, thank you so much, Jamal. It really makes me feel good that I'm able to bring you on and let people see and know a little bit about you. And with that, one last question. Any other thoughts before we go?
No, I think you're doing a great job with the podcast. Congratulations with the YouTube channel at 123. Doing a good job with that. And just keep it coming, man. Keep the foot on the gas. I'm waiting for another album from you.
I'm kind of working on it. I got a bunch of orphan projects that, for those of you who don't already know, my artist name is Whitebeard Bello, and this man right here plays my music at his sets. Every time I'm there, he's playing my stuff. So I truly appreciate that. You've bought my entire discography, 4 albums and a single, and it's freaking awesome, and I love it, and I appreciate you. Yeah, a new probably in the next 3 or 4 months I'll have a new album out. But
Okay.
but a lot of music that you got like, I don't know, 60 tunes or 50.
Well, I'm doing edits on your songs. I hope you don't get offended.
No, because the DJ's gonna be what the DJ's gonna be, So you're using the music, I totally appreciate it, and I feel like a little kid when I hear it, But with that, we're going to sign off, and stay tuned for the next episode. Probably, I think the way it's going to work, I'm hoping to do weekly uploads. So after you see this video, will probably be another one the following week.
Thanks,
Take
Mike.
care,
I appreciate
everybody.
it. Take care.
Say goodbye.
Take care, everybody.
Hey, Mike Bello here in the N123 studio with the Let's Talk Hustle podcast. I want to give a quick shout out to New Circle Films, who were so gracious to sponsor me with product, especially this particular boom arm for the microphone, as well as some lighting. So yeah, it's really helped to give a greater look to the podcast. So thank you, New Circle Films. And of course, the other shout out, tongue in cheek, to N123, because the podcast is residing in the N123 channel. So that's it, folks. See you in the next video.